Welcome back to another cooking video and happy first day of spring. To celebrate, I decided to make the complete breakfast, which is the first recipe in the spring chapter of the Stardew Valley cookbook. It's not quite spring where I am. Everything is still kind of gray and cold. Winter is a little bit stubborn here, so I'm hoping that if I lean hard enough into the spring energy, I can trick the weather into catching up. Please bear with me. I know this video isn't typical of how I usually do cooking videos. A lot of my footage ended up being corrupted, which is honestly frustrating as hell. But I did my best to piece everything together, so everything is here, it's just a little different. This breakfast is made up of the things I've cooked so many times before, just not like this. So I was really excited going into it because it felt like a mixture of something familiar and something completely new at the same time. The hash browns were definitely the most time-consuming part, but also the part I was most curious about. Squeezing the water out of the potatoes was such a weird experience. I've never done that before, and it felt like I was doing something wrong the entire time. Like I wasn't squeezing enough, or like maybe somehow I was squeezing too much. But honestly, I was worrying for nothing. They turned out phenomenal. Also, quick note, because I know someone will think it. The potato water turning brown is totally normal. It's not dangerous, it's not gross, nothing's dirty. I promise I wash my potatoes and I wash my tea towels. I promise the bowl was clean. That's just potato behavior. Something that's super interesting is that this recipe relies on the natural starch in the potato. There is a little bit of cornstarch in the recipe, but most of the starch comes from the starch that fell to the bottom of the bowl as the potato water was sitting. And I think there's something that feels really simple about that, like in a good way. Like it doesn't need a ton of extra, it just works with what's already there. That being said, I'm really not a patient person, so waiting for the starch to settle at the bottom of the bowl felt like it took so long. I think I waited long enough though, because everything held together super well. The texture of the dried potatoes was a little crazy. It stuck to everything. Why is it like that? My hands, the counter, the towel was a nightmare to clean. I had to wipe everything down like 2 or 3 times just to feel like my kitchen wasn't slowly being overtaken by potato. But the seasoning in these made the potato nightmare so worth it. The garlic and the onion in this were the perfect blend. I already used those in basically everything I cook, but this felt super balanced. It didn't overpower anything, and it just made the potatoes taste much better. And this compote, it was so good. It was super simple. It was just rhubarb, blackberries, and sugar. I love rhubarb so much, and it kept its tartness really well. I was surprised when I didn't have to cook the blackberries, and I expected them to be a little bit firmer than the rhubarb was when it was time to eat it, but the rhubarb softened them perfectly and made the whole thing so yummy, and I think it was because the rhubarb was still hot. The recipe also calls for salmon berries, and blackberries are the backup ingredient. I didn't even know where to start looking for salmon berries, and I had blackberries in my fridge, so that's what I used. The pancakes were really interesting to make. This recipe uses plain yogurt in the batter, which isn't something I usually do. I wasn't totally sure what to expect from that. It felt slightly unconventional and weird, but in a way that made me really curious. I honestly didn't taste a yogurt flavor, so I think it worked out well, and I also had to let the batter sit for about 15 minutes before cooking it. The cookbook says it's to give it time to rise, but I'll be honest, I wasn't convinced it was doing anything. I didn't think it rose at all. When I watched the footage back though, you can see the pancakes expanding in the pan while they cook, which I think is really cool. It's one of those things you don't really notice in the moment, but it's fun to catch later. And I don't know, but I think that resting time made a difference because these were so fluffy and soft. Compared to the hash browns and the pancakes, the eggs were definitely the easiest part. And I know we're still on the pancakes, but there's only so much I can say about pancakes, okay? The eggs were pretty much exactly how I would normally make fried eggs. There weren't any surprises there. I'm not even sure how many different ways there are to make fried eggs. This felt kind of like the standard, reliable method. It worked out really well because everything else kind of had a little bit more going on. And so it was nice to have one part of the meal feel familiar and super low effort. I honestly sometimes wish cooking worked the way it does in Stardew Valleys and other cozy games. You throw your ingredients together, wait 5 seconds, and suddenly you have the meal. There's no dishes, no mess, no questioning your life choices or deciding that you'd rather eat something else halfway through. But at the same time, I don't know if I'd actually want that all the time. There's something really satisfying about the slower process, especially when it's something you care about or something that feels a little special. I've been enjoying cooking from licensed cookbooks lately, and I think it's because bringing something I love into real life makes things feel special. My papa used to cook me breakfast every morning as I was growing up, and so getting a new take on food I already know and love felt really special. And it felt like I was building on what I already know. And what I know is I'm going to be making these hash browns again. They are so good. Crispy, crunchy. I didn't even dip them in ketchup, which always annoys everybody I eat hash browns with. Because let's be honest, nobody likes soggy hash browns. Except for Leah. But she hates these hash browns, she hates fried eggs, and she hates pancakes, which makes this entire meal a personal nightmare for her. And somehow, she still likes the complete breakfast, and I have no idea why. Maybe it's like a silly inside joke that Concerned Tape has. You know who does love the complete breakfast, though? Alex. The Statue of Endless Fortune will give you one once a year on his birthday, and in the cookbook there's a note from him saying his grandma makes him one every morning to help him on the grid ball field, which feels very on brand for him. Meanwhile, Sebastian absolutely hates this meal, which also feels really on brand. Something I thought was interesting, the in-game version of this recipe actually calls for milk, but it's only mentioned in a little blurb at the top. Maybe that's the part that Leah likes. It shows up on the wiki as a liked gift. Does she just throw the food in the trash? And here are some other fun facts. You can use the complete breakfast in a sewing machine with some cloth to make classic overalls, or you can use it as a yellow dye, which raises a lot of questions, but I'm not going to think too hard about it. Overall, this was so much fun to make and so worth it. It felt cozy, chaotic, nostalgic. It made me smile, and honestly, I will most definitely be making this again. Do you think this will convince spring to show up, or do you think I'll have to do some more springtime activities?